hope you are having a wonderful winter break. I am missing you. I hope you are enjoying time with your family, and I am excited to get back into our book. I was trying to remember before I even went back to the text where we left off, and because it's been about a week since we've read this. And I'm leaving off, I hope it's the same page that you're leaving off. If we're not on the exact same page, I'm picking up on page 68. Can you please just pause this and read up to 68 just so you can remember what happened? That's what we're always doing as readers, especially when we're reading a book as complex as this. I'm just going to go back and think about what's happened. We know that Zan is kind of exhausted by Luna because Luna is very magical, and it seems as she's getting older, her magic is growing even more, and Zan's having a really hard time keeping up with her. And we just learned recently that it seems that as Luna's magic is growing, Zan's magic is decreasing. So there's this interesting kind of opposite, I don't know, oppositional relationship happening as Luna's magic is growing, Zan's magic is decreasing. So that's interesting. And now Luna has turned Glurk into a bunny, which is hilarious. And I'm imagining this happening as a movie. I hope this becomes a movie. So I'm just kind of giggling at that. And as we pick up on the top of 68, we will finish this chapter and then start a new one. Why do I want a carrot? Glurk asked. Well, we know that Glurk's been turned into a bunny, so naturally bunnies want carrots. It's kind of funny. The witch, I'm in my dining room right now. It's a little dark, so bear with me. The witch explains the situation. Glurk was not amused. Don't even start with me, Zan snapped. There is nothing to say, Glurk said. We both love her. She is family, but what now? Of course, they're talking about Luna. Glurk and Zan are both a little dismayed by her, to say the least. Zan pulled herself to her feet, her joints creaking and crackling like rusty gears. I hate to do this, but it's for all of our sakes. She is a danger to herself. She is a danger to all of us. She has no idea what she's doing, and I don't know how to teach her. Not now, not when she's so young and impulsive and Luna-ish. Zan stood, rolled her shoulders, and braced herself. She made a bubble and hardened the bubble into a cocoon around the girl. That's really interesting to think of, and it makes me think about Wicked, when Glinda is in the bubble herself. Adding bright threads winding around and around. Again, this is a really interesting image to picture in our imaginations. She can't breathe, Glurk said, suddenly alarmed. She doesn't need to, Zan said. She is in stasis, and the cocoon holds her magic inside. She closed her eyes. Zosimos used to do this to me when I was a child, probably for the same reason. Glurk's face clouded over. He sat heavily on the ground, curling his thick tail around him like a cushion. I remember all at once, he shook his head. Why had I forgotten? Zan pushed her wrinkled lips to one side. Sorrow is dangerous, or at least it was. I can't remember why now. I think we both became accustomed to not remembering things. We just let things get foggy. So now they're going back to the past where we know some really sad things happened. We're not sure exactly what, but there's been a few times in this book where they've sat kind of and pondered the past, but we don't know exactly what's happened, but we know it's quite sad. Glurk guessed it was something more than that, but he let the matter drop. Firion will be coming down after a bit, I expect. He can't stand being alone for too long. I don't think it matters, but don't let him touch Luna, just in case. Glurk reached out and laid his great hand on Zan's shoulder. Where are we going? So it seems now at this point, Glurk has been turned back into the swamp monster. He's no longer a bunny, unfortunately. But where are you going? To the old castle, Zan said. But, Clerk stared at her. There's nothing there, just a few old stones. I know, Zan said. I just need to stand there, in that place, where I last saw Zosimos and Furion's mother and the rest of them. I need to remember things, even if it makes me sad. Leaning heavily on her staff, Zan began hobbling away. I need to remember a lot of things, she muttered to herself. Everything, right now. Very interesting. So this story has a lot of problems, but the biggest problem in chapter 9 that they're dealing with is how do they manage Luna. She's so magical, she's kind of out of control. So now Zan has put her into this kind of bubble / cocoon where she's just like sort of frozen. They're just kind of pausing her. And now Zan, the setting's going to be changing. Zan's going back to this old castle where these sad things happen, where she saw her mentor for the last time, where they saw the baby dragon's mother for the last time. And so I think once she goes to this old castle, we'll have some answers to a bunch of questions that have been following us throughout the story so far. The next chapter is chapter 10. It starts on page 70, and it's called In Which a Witch Finds a Door and a Memory Too. So we know that the setting is changing. We know that Zan is going to the old castle. I'm just going to start this chapter, and then we will continue the chapter in our next Read Aloud. Zan turned her back on the swamp and followed the trail up the slope towards the crater where the volcano had opened its face to the sky so long ago. The trail had been fashioned with large flat rocks inlaid into the ground and fitted so close to one another that the seam between them had hardly let in a piece of paper. It had been years since Zan last walked the trail, centuries really. She shivered. Everything looked so different, and yet not. There had been a circle of stones in the courtyard of the castle once upon a time. They had surrounded the central older tower with sentinels, and the castle had wrapped around the whole of it like a snake eating its tail. Interesting to imagine. But the tower was gone now, though Zan had no idea where, and the castle was rubble and the stones had been toppled by the volcano or swallowed up by the earthquake. We've heard about the volcano and the earthquake a couple of times. We've just had these kind of flashbacks. We don't have the complete story with that. Hopefully in this chapter we'll start to have a fuller understanding of what happened there. Or crumbled by fire and water in time. Now there was only one, and it was difficult to find. Tall grasses surrounded it like thick curtains, and ivy clung to its face. Zan spent well over a half day just trying to find it, and once she did, it was a full hour of hard labor just to dislodge the lattice of persistent ivy. So it seems like this castle is trying to be hidden. When she got down to the stone itself, she was disappointed. There were words carved into the flat of the stone, a simple message on each side. Zosimos himself, so keep in mind Zosimos was Zan's teacher, her mentor, had carved it long ago. He had carved it for her when she was still a child. Don't forget, it said on one side of the stone. I mean it, it said on the other. Don't forget what? You mean what, Zosimos? She wasn't sure. Despite the spottiness of her memories, one thing she did remember was her tendency toward the obscure, and his assumption that because vague words and insinuations were clear enough for him, they must be perfectly comprehensible to all, which of course we know they are not. And after all these years, Zan remembered how annoying she had found it then. Confound that man, she said. She seems a little frustrated by him. She approached the stone and leaned her forehead against the deeply curved words, as if the stone might be Zosimo itself. Oh, Zosimos, she said, feeling a surge of emotion that she hadn't felt in nearly 5 centuries. I'm sorry, I've forgotten. I didn't mean to, but... The surge of magic hit her like a falling boulder, knocking her backwards. She landed with a thud on her creaking hips. She stared at the stone, open-mouthed. The stone also was magic. The stone is in magic itself, she thought to herself. Of course. She looked up at the stone just as the seam appeared down the middle and the two sides swung inward like great stone doors. Not like stone doors, Zan thought. They are stone doors. Now it's changing. The shape of the stone still stood like a doorway against the blue sky, but the entrance itself opened into a very slim corridor or hallway where a set of stone steps disappeared into the dark. So she was like kind of feeling so sad. She's leaning against the wall, and now the stone has opened, and now she's seeing kind of a secret hallway. In a flash, Zan remembered that day. She was 13 years old and terribly impressed with her own witchy cleverness, and her teacher, once so strong and powerful, was fading by the day. Be careful of your sorrow, he had said. He was so old then, impossibly old. He was all angles and bones and papery skin like a cricket. Your sorrow is dangerous. Don't forget that she is still about. And so Zan had swallowed her sorrow and her memories too. She buried both so deep that she would never find them, or she thought. Interesting. I'm going to pause there. So I'm pausing on the bottom of page 72. I hope you are reading along with me. I hope you are continuing to enjoy this story that is just full of magic and wonder and imagination, and it's just such a beautiful story. I'm happy we get to read it together, even on winter break. I will pick up and read the rest of chapter 10 in our next read aloud, and then it looks like we're getting into chapter 11 where Zan is going to make a decision. I wonder what sort of decision she is going to be making. Feel free to continue. Well, not feel free. Please continue making your annotations on each page. It's so important that we think about our thinking and think about our story as we are reading. Sending all my love to you, my friends. Please enjoy this very well-deserved break. And thanks for taking a little bit of time to read with me. I'll see you soon.